A trip back to the West Coast for the Highline Racing League. The Westlake Royal Building Products Premier Series heads back to the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway for 180 miles of racing. You're watching the Highline Racing League Premier Series as they head back to Nevada. This is the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and tonight it's going to be a special presentation. The Sutter Health 120 laps of action tonight. Qualifying is on the move, and currently 3 minutes remain in our qualifying session. Welcome back live on FTN. If you're watching with us already tonight, you've seen already a great race at Charlotte. More intermediate action, and this time it's in Sin City. Chad Winstead finds himself at the top of the qualifying charts. He's on a very good run. We saw him win, of course, last week in Kern County, and now looking to back it up with a second consecutive win. He was the fastest in practice and the fastest in qualifying so far. Winstead, the man to beat in this session. Welcome back live on FTN. I'm David Kreutz alongside Alexander Balderas for all of tonight's coverage, and so far, maybe a clear favorite developing. Championship race in full swing. Drop weeks now being implemented. Over 20 drivers registered, closer to 25 now, and we've seen 20 of which take a time at least once here. So qualifying shaping up nicely, Alex. Looking forward to what's next here. What are you thinking as we get ready to go in Las Vegas?
Well, David, we're here in Sin City here in Nevada, and someone might say that these guys are going to gamble to see on what they can do throughout the rest of this race. Currently, Chad Winstead on pole over to J.R. Houston, then Roberto Ramirez and Adam Bozzi. These guys, the top of the board so far. That's your top four. Again, my pick, Chad Winstead, almost week in, week out. He's been my solid contender. He's on provisional pole right now, and I don't know if I really see anyone coming up to beat him. So I don't know, David. I think I'm rolling my dice, and I'm putting my bets on Chad Winstead.
Winstead looks to already be the safe bet, but there's also the championship fight to look out for. J.R. Houston will jump up in a second quickly, and we're watching right now as Andrew Baker moves up into 20th. There's Roberto Ramirez, Adam Bozzi, Casey Heschel, Tyler Hampton, Scott Wheeler. It's a multitude of drivers who are still eligible for the championship here, and Winstead is also clawing up into that frame. And now that we're in the back half of the season, more and more every driver looks likelier to make up points with more successful races, and we're coming to a point where you got to figure out whether or not you're in it to win it here. There's a lot of drivers who are technically already out of the championship battle. Nonetheless, there's a ways to go until we figure out who's really going to be the favorite here, and we've seen different faces take it back to victory lane multiple times. We've seen Tyler Hampton successful, Alan Kunman, Lucas Lodato recently getting his breakout first win. There are drivers who haven't won this season who we think are quick. The aforementioned Scott Wheeler, or how about Scott Zellner? There's not a lot of room for error. There's a lot of parity so far this season. And overall, while Winstead is a safe bet, I feel he might not be the driver to go with if Dylan Poteet moves up to second. 6 thousandths off in his first lap, and maybe an opportunity to go and beat the number 60. He's now going to be on a run with 20 seconds remaining. It's going to be a very close call here as Poteet really neck and neck with his previous time. And now coming into turns 3 and 4, take a look at telemetry here on the throttle, blipping back and forth, and for Poteet, this is the make or break lap. Coming down to the inside of the track at the line for Poteet, it is going to be a 31.038, and that lap alone would have seated him in 6th. Not enough to go past Chad Winstead. Qualifying has concluded.
Would you look at that, David? Pick on top of the board, Chad Winstead. He is our pole sitter. And I got to tell you, David, I'm excited to go gambling here in Vegas. A lot of these guys sure getting ready as well. Vegas is a great track to, have a lot of lane choice, and these guys are certainly ready for that as they're getting ready to go on the grid.
And it looks like right now 2 lanes are being formed inside and outside as the starting grid is in formation. Chad Winstead at the top of the board, and he's there in the pole position with Dylan Poteet then in second. Third spot going to belong to J.R. Houston, and it's Roberto Ramirez then in fourth in that 42. Ramirez didn't race with us last week in Kern County. That's one of his drop races, so keep that in mind. He's going to have to set himself back up with a real good race tonight if he wants to perhaps make up some of that temporary deficit in the Mobile 1 Chevrolet Chevrolet. Adam Bozzi going to be then in 5th with Alan Kunman, position number 6. And it'll be 7th place, Matthew Rodriguez, Scott Wheeler, 8th spot in the number 97. 9th position going to be Tyler Hampton and Casey Heschel, championship contender who made those gains at Kern County, rounding out the top 10, and he finds himself only about... Wow, when you look at it, it's only a 10th and a half from 1st to 10th here, Alex. It is a tight-knit group, and Heschel rounds out the top 10.
It's a stacked top 10 so far for these guys right now. And then going on to the further the grid, it's Terry Brooks, followed by Dylan Wedgwood in the 98, Tyler J. Snyder and Corey Blevins, then Caleb Morrissey, Austin Bloom, and Lucas Lodato. Then going further down, it's Brad Kress, Jimmy McKee, and Toby Wedgwood in the 52.
Looking beyond Toby Wedgwood, you're then going to see Andrew Baker in 21st, Jacob Holm in 22nd spot, and it'll be 23rd for Colton Gardner and Connor Holden. The final driver to take a time tonight just beyond Connor Holden's reach, that's Ty Smith, 25th, and Scott Zeller in 26th, with Dylan Body, 27th, and last on our starting grid here, Alex, 14 rows going back to Dylan Body, and now as we set ourselves up 2 laps to green, a little bit of time before we get things going. Now, you've taken to this track before with this car, the NASCAR Xfinity Series package we're using. Can you tell us a little bit more about the driver's perspective before we get things going here?
Well, looking at the information here and taking a look at the weather conditions, track temp going to be warm because the air temp's 87 degrees. Taking a look at the track temp now, somewhere within the high 110s, 115 to be specific. And so that means that these guys are going to be sliding that right rear, and things are going to be loose and hot here in Vegas. These guys are going to have to watch the temps on the right rear and make sure they keep those right side tires in check, because one of my famous lines, David, one slide and you're along for the ride. So tire management going to be one of the key things to master here at Vegas.
And it's a certainty that here, of course, given those temperatures, tire wear are going to come into the equation all night long. 115 is the track temperature, as you mentioned. It is scorching with 1 lap to green. You're watching live on FTN. This is the Sutter Health 180, and we've gone to Las Vegas a few times on FTN this year. You might notice a bit of a trend with the names we've been giving. Today, the word came out about the Oakland Athletics and their new stadium in Sacramento, California. It's going to be Sutter Health Stadium, the home right now of the Sacramento River Cats. We know the Athletics are attempting a move to Las Vegas. Looks like it's getting trickier and trickier by the day. They signed a 3-year lease with an option for a 4th after the 2024 season. We'll see where that goes as the circus in Oakland continues, to put it frankly here. With that being said, back to the racing here in Las Vegas. At least there's one serious sport in this city, and it's always going to be stock car racing the way we see it. Chad Winstead is going to find himself not in the front of the field, matter of fact. He is at the end of the line, if you're looking at it here right now. With that being said, Dylan Pote and J.R. Houston are your front row. And Houston on the inside line is going to get a chance to lead the field in the Leidos Toyota Supra. It's the 20 down low with Poteet up top, Dylan chasing his 3rd career victory, and J.R. Houston potentially going after his first. Time to roll the dice here in Las Vegas. It's going to be J.R. Houston down low and Dylan Poteet up top. Let's get things going here in Nevada. Green flags out, and it's J.R. Houston in control.
First lap done and in the books as things start to get crazy here. Adam Bozzi goes for a slide there with the rear tires. David, as I was mentioning, you don't want to slide him, and once you do, you're along for the rest of the ride that comes with it. Right now, Matthew Rodriguez has passed the 27. Then down on the inside of that is Tyler Hampton in the 5 machine. He's battling there for the spot that would have been his had Adam Bozzi not saved it. Then going further down the rest of the field, it's Scott Wheeler Jr. in 6th just behind them, and Roberto Ramirez doing battle with Kunman. Kunman going to go up and scrape the wall. And you know, one thing, David, you mentioned here about different packages. One thing that's just been updated now is the realization of the iRacing series now having the Xfinity Dark Horse instead of the older Mustang, and so now that is its first appearance on the iRacing circuit.
Trying to get a better look at that dark horse, as you mentioned. Take a look off the back bumper now of J.R. Houston. He's got Dylan Poteet behind him, and Poteet running in the highest position for the Mustang, tentatively speaking. And Dylan going to be about a quarter of a second off of your race leader at the line again. Chad Winstead goes to the back of the field here, and as such, he's going to end up at the tail end, having to claw his way up, with J.R. Houston assuming the race lead. 4 laps in out of 120, and so far Houston holding on nicely, with Poteet just behind. The top 2 getting away nicely down that Nellis straightaway, and now Cunman and Hampton battling each other. Ever since Iowa, these two have been consistently competing against one another closely no matter what track we go to, and once again that is the case. Tyler Hampton going to be going down through the front straightaway, and Cunman going to be there in 6th. He gets by Hampton, but Tyler, I'm sure, has a trick up his sleeve to get right back. We'll see whether or not he goes a little more aggressive in the coming turns to make those passes right back up, but I don't feel he's going to do so, at least for now, given how much time we have left. 2x2 is especially prevalent further on back, and we see a few drivers with some familiar paint schemes. Dylan Wedgwood in the Badlands, number 98. You look further back, Tyler Snyder in the South Point, number 87. And a sponsor right out of the Las Vegas Strip here. And we got South Point Hotel and Casino, that number 87, now running down to the bottom side on Austin Bloom, Andrew Baker, and in addition, there's Casey Heschel and Jimmy McKee. Tight-knit bunch in the middle of the pack here, Alex, and they are the closest of anyone else in the field. Gotta say, so far handling it well, but those track temperatures, I gotta admit, they gotta be getting in these tires and setting themselves up for a trickier ride as the race goes on.
Well, I gotta wonder about these guys back here and about the lower teens here. Austin Bloom going side by side with Jimmy McKee, and the rest of these guys look like they're about ready to take a restart. They're all side by side and fighting for position. It's gonna be Jimmy McKee on the inside of Bloom, who might take that spot, but then you look back, you have the 33 passing the 49 of Casey Heschel. They're all doing battle right now, as that's Andrew Baker to make the move. Casey Heschel falling back on that inside lane. These guys not giving it anything, though. They're all putting it all on the track right now, and it's only lap 7. Austin Bloom makes up the spot on Jimmy McKee, and they go single file. But I don't know how long that's going to last, as they're still doing battle, and that's going to be Lucas Lodato and Tyler J. Snyder. They're battling it out for the 19th position. So we've got battles here all throughout the track, nearly down to the back of the field. And Chad Winstead is slowly making his way up through the field after starting last at about the 28th position. He's made up about 5 spots, so that's 1 spot-ish per lap. So he's right now passing Scott Zellner in the 1 car. He's on his way further up the field, but these guys, their aggression level is really high this early on. And that kind of concerns me because they've got a lot of race left to run. And I don't know how much longer they can push like that.
Of 27 positions, of course, Chad Winstead ending up dead last at the start. 27 took the green flag. He is up to currently 21st. A change for the race lead. Dylan Poteet once again gets it up in front. And now J.R. Houston is going to be playing catch-up immediately behind. 9 laps in, heading to lap 10. At the line for the number 31, he makes himself known. His presence is clear. Dylan Poteet not going to be playing around tonight. Matthew Rodriguez now going side by side with Adam Bozzi. Looks like for the 51, can't quite work it out. Bozzi gets back up into the podium here. But for one driver we don't see all too often, J.R. Houston once again impressing, making his debut last season and now becoming a bit of a irregular driver. He comes in for a start or two, has some success, and then goes for the rest of the season. But tonight, Houston, maybe an opportunity for him to break through and get that first win out in front. He'll take the lead right back from Dylan Poteet. Been about a cat and mouse game for the early 11 laps that we've seen, and Dylan, he is there again, working way back. Can't quite really keep it together relative to the first run. He's already 0.3 of a second behind and still losing here. So we'll see whether or not Poteet is saving, maybe letting J.R. Houston go all the way out and gonna reel him back in. We'll see whether or not Dylan can keep J.R. Houston on a leash here, because it looks like now that number 20 is gaining and gaining. Really no sign of stopping here. Houston's going to enter turns 1 and 2 with the clear edge. And it looks like now, still gaining here, Houston. He is going to be your leader 12 laps in.
Well, a couple laps ago when Dylan Poteet made that mistake, you could just see that it didn't turn The front end of the car quite literally slid up the track, and he stayed into that middle section. That's about no man's land. You really don't want to run there in the middle of the corner, as there's no real lane of grip like there is painting the white line or being by the wall. So right there is about, you can see where he didn't really have any speed. J.R. Houston was able to poke the nose underneath and get the move made. And now Dylan Poteet has been sliding back ever more because of that move. One of the closest battles we've got on track, Tyler Hampton catching up to Kunman. And as that happens, Scott Wheeler Jr. catching up to the 51 of Matthew Rodriguez. They're looking to make a battle too. But a lot of these guys catching up to each other, and the gaps here at Vegas aren't really that big. A lot of these guys kind of closing in on one another as the field starts to bunch up again. 13 laps after, now 14 after the original start. These guys starting to push more as Scott Wheeler Jr. goes to the inside of the 51. He's going to be able to make the pass. But the 51 still hasn't given it up yet. Right now, that's going to be Matthew Rodriguez getting the spot taken from him by Scott Wheeler Jr., but now he'll have a shot to try and take it back again as Kunman and Hampton both close.
And now you mention Alan Kunman is going to be right there as Rodriguez is very, very loose. And now it's going to be moved down to the bottom side as Kunman takes it right down low to the apron. The overall field spread is somewhat tighter than we had imagined. It's about 6 seconds throughout the top 20, and just behind him is Chad Winstead in 21st, about a tenth off. So a good majority of your field is within 6 seconds of the leader right now. One driver who's really pulling away, he's the anomaly, is J.R. Houston, but the rest of the field, for the time being, really not going to be much a difference for anyone else. It's going to be tight, 3 or 4 tenths of a second gaps, consistently being put together throughout the field. I think it's going to be all about whether or not you can get away from someone here with this dirty air. It doesn't look all too likely. Thurston is going to be, of course, not in this race. We saw him earlier today in the Iora Cup Series, and let's go back to that battle. You were in this race, mind you. We saw James Thurston, we saw Joseph Armstrong, and we saw, eventually, the race winner, Jacob Wilkerson, all fighting that dirty air with the intermediate package. And these are drivers who, they know how to race this package as much as the drivers here in the Highline Racing League do, but the biggest Achilles heel, no matter if it's daytime or nighttime, at intermediate, it's that aerodynamic factor, and you saw a little bit of a turbulent factor of it as well. So when it comes to how it is inside the cockpit, when you're not the leader, when you're not J.R. Houston, there's something different about it, and I think right now for a lot of these drivers, they're facing what you and the rest of the Iora company did earlier tonight.
Well, Charlotte's a bit of a different track than Vegas, a little bit more banked. But then again, tighter degrees in the corners. They're going to be at closer corners, and so dirty air happens a little bit more. However, the package that we have here with the Xfinity car, with it being low downforce, there really isn't much dirty air. There is still a little bit, as with almost any race car, but really negligible here in the Xfinity car. So with these guys having to manage more of their tires, that's going to be the deciding factor. More than anything, as Poteet now slides into the hands of Adam Bazzi. He's going to be the one closest to the 31 machine as Scott Wheeler Jr. continues to close. He went on a tear after passing Kunman and the like. They made up some spots as well. But Wheeler's on the move, as you can see there. Bazzi just couldn't get the exit off of 4. He will slide back and using that middle lane. Now, what's interesting to me is seeing these guys use that middle lane, and it helps from time to time, but really doesn't help in the end. As you can see, Scott Wheeler Jr. just got such a run to the back of Adam Bazzi that it really doesn't matter what lane you run, and they're all going to take it. But right now you can see there that Wheeler is taking more of a late apex, and he'll get back down to the bottom, but Bazzi doesn't do that. He tries to go up further the track and get a higher and faster run off the exit of the corner. But the problem with that is you sacrifice so much center speed that I don't think it's worth it here in the end, as Scott Wheeler Jr. is able to carry that momentum and slide down to the inside of the 27, and they'll be side by side going down the back straightaway. Bazzi's going to get the run here, but Scott Wheeler Jr. is going to be faster on that midsection of the corner. You can see it now. Bazzi goes to the top. He'll have a better exit, and Wheeler is going to slide the rears and won't get there. But he'll still be side by side, and no, he will not. He's now clear. So you can just see how this battle shapes by the different lanes that they run.
watching the telemetry right now for Adam Bozzi, and you'll see exactly what he's doing inside the cockpit as we continue to watch the battle. Halfway out of the corners, and it looks like he was already flat on the loud pedal here. Then going to back it in with a little bit of brake magic, gets down to 147, and then, since he's up top here, he can rip it with a little more speed and try to keep it side by side with Scott Wheeler. As they come across the stripe here, the dark horse on the bottom side, maybe a bit of an advantage. Adam staying high, but he'll have to work something out here. 184 before tapping the brakes and going for it once again. Both drivers, Wheeler and Bozzi, are quicker than Dylan Poteet, so keep that in mind too. They're gaining, and they're evidently making strides as Bozzi now going to go for the switchback maneuver, and he will cross down to the bottom. They're both gaining on their second place driver right now, so they have a chance to both stay within the podium if, of course, they get through that number 31. That's a big if right now. It takes one thing to pass the driver. Of course, you got to get there first. Catching might be easy, but the pass, always next level. And for Dylan, he's holding on nicely. Has not needed to really defend so far. However, now it's Scott Wheeler right under him. He might just have to. Taking a look down low, the 31 machine seeing to the bottom. But he'll keep on where he is and run to turn 3 as your second place driver.
Well, you saw there, David, when Scott Wheeler Jr. had made the pass on Adam Bozzi, you could see just how much right rear he had over Bozzi, and now he burns it up, getting loose behind Poteet. They're all going to get loose. As you can see the tire marks left on the track. That's not a good sign for these guys trying to get their rears in check. You could just see how important it was to save that right rear and the right front. The right sides in general, but more or less the right rear, because Scott Wheeler Jr. was able to get on the gas and rocket around the outside of Bozzi, and so that's the difference between these guys in saving their tires. You can see there is such a yaw that Bozzi has. He's on the gas and he's getting loose off the corner. Bit of a wiggle there from Scott Wheeler Jr., and now here comes Bozzi. Thought about splitting at 3, won't do so. He'll stay on the outside with the 31. And right now, Scott Wheeler Jr. is going to go to the inside of the 31. And I don't know how much Scott Wheeler Jr. is going to like using that bottom lane. You can see just how much faster he was when he experienced and experimented with that topside lane, trying to pass around Adam Bozzi. So we'll have to see what his game plan is coming up.
For the time being, Dylan Poteet defending nicely. Furthermore, you see Jimmy McKee right now in a side-by-side battle with Roberto Ramirez. And down to the number inside of the number 48 it is. That's Jimmy McKee. The 42 is up top. It's a side-by-side fight into 1 and 2 again. It looks like the same goes for Dylan Poteet and Scott Wheeler. And the advantage this time by Scott Wheeler. There goes Wheeler with Tyler Hampton now coming through. A bit of a wiggle from Allen coming at the same time. And now it's going to be Dylan Wedgwood. It's a multitude of battles at the same time, and the Dylans, they are fighting just like that. Down to the inside, you can see Scott Wheeler coming through at the stripe. He's in second. Dylan Poteet going to be third, and Tyler Hampton is in fourth. It's a 2-3-4 combination. It's a little bit different than before because Hampton, coming up from 9th to 4th, has made the moves, and it looks like right now one of the biggest movers in the entire race. The way things are looking, Hampton trying to gain even more as he runs right to the bottom side of Dylan Poteet. Maybe an opportunity for him to take the podium here, Alex, as Hampton now cuts deep.
Well, you know, David, if you really didn't look at the gaps and couldn't see him, you would have thought that this was a lap after the restart of how these guys are racing. We're on lap 28 of the run so far, have not had a caution since the restart and the initial start. So these guys still going hammered down this far into a run. And that just shows you how much confidence they have in the tires that they've saved. Scott Wheeler Jr. right now trying to fend off Tyler Hampton. Don't know how easy that's going to be. And I imagine it's going to be quite hard as down to the inside goes Hampton. You can just see how much he's been saving that right side, really those right side tires, using them to effect now as he slides up off the corner, wiggles a bit, but he's going to have that apron to take. So even though Scott Wheeler Jr. got that run off the outside, he has the shorter distance around the track, and he'll be able to clear Scott Wheeler Jr. when entering the corner. But Bozzi doesn't look like he's quite done either. Stuck side by side with Poteet right now, as Poteet now slides back in line. If those two can work together and get all the way back up to Wheeler, we might have a 4-car battle for second.
Well, it looks like for now, Tyler Hampton firmly planting himself in second. I think the battle now going to be more around the edge of the top 5 and the outskirts here with Dylan Poteet, Jimmy McKee, and, of course, Alan Cummin. Right now, the bottom half of the top 10 sorting itself out nicely. Brad Kress going to be side by side here with Scott Zellner. Outside of the top 10, you see these drivers slowly but surely mixing it up as well. And maybe now for the guys who are up in front, settling themselves in, they're starting to look at what is next. And of course, that's going to be your pit strategy as this race progresses. Now, we do not have a fuel cell limit. We're getting all 100%, so maybe there's still an opportunity to go for the 60-60 split. Clutching and coasting is going to have to be a very big deal if drivers choose to do just that. And when you're looking at guys in the back of the field like the ones we're looking at here, Chad Winstead and company, I highly doubt they are saving, because Winstead right now trying to make up every spot he lost from the start of this race, starting at the very tail end and looking for that last to first challenge, maybe an opportunity to go for it once more as Winstead now looks low. Brad Kress right up top on him, and this is going to be the fight for 16th here as Winstead has the speed. We'll see whether or not he can connect for another pass, and as we come through, there is smoke billowing, and it's one driver, and it looks like that's going to be Corey Blevins. Blevins going to save it. However, we're going to take a look back here as it looks like trouble for the number 24. Corey Blevins going to go down and into the grass on his own, and the infield going to see some trouble. He's going to slide out of 4, and he will end up locking it down, locking it up, and nobody else gets involved. So for Blevins, bad news, but luckily no other incident, and we will stay green as a result.
Well, an incident in the back, but the state of the track remains the same. We're still green. It's going to be Scott Wheeler Jr. ahead of Adam Bosley. That's the battle for 3rd and 4th. Right now, Scott Wheeler Jr. staying in a pretty close proximation to Tyler Hampton after Hampton had driven around him. Now that gap to the lead continuously closing. Right now, we just checked it about a lap ago, 9.9 of a second. Now down 2.7 of a second and closing by the lap. The last lap he ran, Tyler Hampton was almost 0.2 quicker than J.R. Houston. So give it about 5 laps, and we may see ourselves a battle for the lead as we get ready for timing and scoring to update. It's about the same as right now Hampton is closing in.
And looking at the 4-lap trend, Alex, here, you are right. At lap 30, the gap was 1.06 seconds. Last time by, it was 0.79 seconds. And when we do our recalculation here, it's going to be another big jump. I think it's going to be under the 0.6 second margin, and that it will not be. But it's a 0.64, nonetheless a 1/1500th of a second gain for Tyler Hampton, and he is now making moves. All of a sudden, the number 5 looks to be coming alive as the fastest driver on the circuit, and maybe a chance to see a battle for the lead here momentarily. J.R. Houston got away and has been dominant ever since. Maybe now starting to see the pitfalls of that very aggressive strategy, as now coming up to what will be 2/3 into this first run. Houston starting to slip back slowly but surely, and I don't quite know whether or not he has the chance to hold on and defend, because that tire wear definitely getting to him the way he's been driving hard. Hampton, a little more conservative, maybe saving his tires better along the way. Now reeling that number 20 right back in due time.
Well, David, I'm here to tell you that gap is ferociously closing as J.R. Houston is slipping into the grasp of Tyler Hampton. You could just see how much tire that Tyler had saved, and now the gap is into 0.3. So not only is Tyler getting the draft from the 20 car, he's also getting the dirty air. However, like I mentioned earlier, with the package that we have, the dirty air really isn't bad in the Xfinity car. You're able to run right up behind somebody and still almost hit the corner normally as if you had the clean air. And so now Tyler Hampton going to be 0.24 entering turns 3 and 4. That gap diminishing by the corner. So we should see Hampton now close into the next couple of laps, and we're going to see if he can pass the 20 around maybe the outside. That's been his good lane for a couple of laps. Been a really popular move to just dive it down the inside, the same move he did on Scott Wheeler Jr., and he may look to do this right now on this lap. Already getting to the back bumper of the 20, going to slide up the racetrack, but that gap, David, is closing and closing fast. Now just back over the 0.2 of a second, but right when he got close to J.R. Houston, he was down to a 0.12 So Hampton closing and closing fast.
And that he is. Take a look at Tyler Hampton as Emma Ox joins the chat room. Rooting for Adam Bossi tonight. Thank you for stopping by. If you have a favorite driver, make sure to let us know in the chat room. We've got two of the best up in front. And Tyler Hampton has consistently gained for the past 10 laps now. It looked like J.R. Houston had this first stint in his hands. However, slowly but surely slipping through his fingers. Hampton now going to be down to the bottom side, a little bit lower than J.R. Houston. I think now he's less focused on gaining time necessarily, and now more focused on setting up the pass. He finds himself within a tenth of a second, not at all a bad margin to be within. Now you gotta wonder, how exactly do you go about making the pass? That's not easy at any rate, and right now it looks like the number 5 is going to look to the bottom side. He's got that Lido Supra right above him, and they're side by side for the first time here. Now coming down the Nellis straightaway, Hampton holds his own, and he will get blocked in the 3 and 4 here, Alex. Not enough there for Hampton, but it's the closest he's been as they come off the final corner, and the number 5 now going to try to switch to the bottom. Houston going to defend and keep his car wide, and Hampton still at a loss here as he's going to try to dive into 1 and 2.
As these guys stay side by side, just heard from a pit call. Right now, one driver down pit road, Adam Bossi. And so now with these guys battling, when do you think they're going to come down pit road? They've been gunning it so hard for these past few laps. How many laps do they have on fuel? If Adam Bossi, Scott Wheeler Jr. is now pitting. These guys are side by side for the lead, and the rest of the field is pitting. So as Tyler Hampton's going to peek now to the inside, he's going to get the lead from J.R. Houston. When do they come down pit road?
Well, you got to wonder, as soon as they get this battle done and done with, it looks like Hampton going to clear for the race lead. And now, the two-stop strategy looking to be much more likely. 42 laps in. Houston going to tap the wall. Down and in the number 20 will go. He will save it, but he's going to be all out of luck and out of time. Houston effectively going to be sentenced to pit road, and Tyler Hampton chooses not the same fate. Houston going to drop down and in to cut his losses and go through fast. All of a sudden, another set of your leaders come in. Dylan Pote, Dylan Wedgwood are going to come through together, and now we're going to have pit road a little busier and your leaders a little more separate. Tyler Hampton, just moments after getting the race lead, he has it ahead of Alan Gunman, Jimmy McKee, Caleb Morrissey, Casey Heschel, Lucas Lodato, and Chad Winstead. That is the bundle that now find himself out in front, 43 laps in, out of 120. With that being said, 43 laps in for these drivers, they're about a third of the way in, and I think you gotta wonder now more and more about when these drivers who are deciding to stay long. When are they going to come in? Winstead is definitely trying to shake things up here by staying out long, and in all honesty, he's doing a pretty good job of it. He's in 7th right now, 4 seconds off of Tyler Hampton. So, on the natural pace, he is 4 seconds off of your leader after starting in dead last. Well, of course, he got the pole position, but wasn't able to stick it there as it's 3 wide for Lodato over Roberto Ramirez. Winstead has been consistently gaining on your leader, and Hampton is the leader based on not just pit cycles, but the fact that he stayed out and got the green flag pass for the lead naturally. So Chad definitely has the speed. Just gotta wonder, what is it going to take here, 45 laps in, for him to maybe make some more moves and cycle up into the top 10 and beyond?
Well, my thing is, David, I was going to try and bet here that Tyler Hampton was going to come down pit road. Doesn't look like the case, so I wonder how far he's going to stretch it. I think 50 laps might be a stretch on a one set, but you do remember, though, he was saving quite a bit, and while he was saving tires, not only that, he could have been saving fuel, so he could have a jump on the rest of the field right now, and that's something important, especially with how much fall off there is on this tire. Remember that Hampton qualified with a 31.065. Last lap by 32.998. So almost about 2 seconds or so in fall off over the course of this run. And I think he may be able to stretch it to 50. We'll just have to see.
Tyler Hampton is going to try to keep on going here. Nobody else going to try to do that. And maybe going for the 50-50 run. That doesn't really get him all too much of a place relative to everyone else, because that's not going to skip a stop. It's only going to give him more time to go longer here. Maybe that's best. Get the long stint out of the way. Don't worry about the rest of it, because for Hampton, at a speed of 154 miles an hour, he puts the gas back into his corner, and he stays out yet again. There's a lot of drivers who are staying out right now, and we saw many come in, maybe not confident about their strategy for the rest of the day, while Hampton has a 2.8 second lead over Allen Cumming. This is a crew of drivers who have chosen to stay out. Going back to Toby Wedgwood in the 11th, all the while, of your drivers that went down to pit road, the net leader, it is currently Scott Wheeler. And you see Wheeler right here. He finds himself one lap down, just behind Tyler Hampton. He's going to get closer and closer to Hampton here, and I think that might be the signal, and it's rolling up on the number 5 quite literally. There goes Wheeler. He's going to try to get himself back on the lead lap, and I think the moment he does, Hampton's going to realize, got to come down to pit road eventually, and there goes Wheeler. Back on the lead lap he goes. He's going to be 29 seconds behind Tyler Hampton, and I think now more than ever, we're going to see the signal flip in his mind that says it's time to come down and in for Tyler Hampton. He's not giving us any signal on the text logs. I think, though, you got to look out for him to come in soon. There's no real choice to go much longer. But Hampton, he's daring to do here as he comes to lap 50.
Well, with how strong the fall-off is and how early it strikes, about 20 laps into a run, you're already breaching almost a 2-second margin. Really doesn't fall any more off from there. So what Tyler Hampton is doing, being able to stretch it out thus far, is exactly what Joe was able to do in Iora. And this is something that he was able to do, and had it gone green, it would have worked almost perfectly in his favor. And right now, that's exactly what Tyler Hampton is doing, able to stretch it out over 50 laps. So I think he may be trying to go halfway. Now, do I think he could do that? No. But my theory is that these guys trying to catch up to Tyler Hampton on that 2-stop cycle, I don't think they're going to have enough tire to try and go to the end. Because right now, he's doing consistent laps. 32.9 after 32.9 after 32.9. He's not really losing any speed, and he's not really going any faster. If he can keep up this pace, they're about to be the same as fall off as he is by the time he gets to lap 65. So if he's trying to split it in one stop and keep it green, he will drop back a considerable margin. But you got to think, when he's about halfway through the stint, when he comes out of the pits, everyone will be pitting again. That will be perfect for Tyler Hampton. So this may be a huge strategy call.
Now, that remains to be seen. Side-by-side battle now going to play into the hands of Jimmy McKee and Lucas Legato. And Matthew Rodriguez just jumped off the long-run bandwagon at a total of 51 laps. Now, we're coming up on our 53rd, mind you, here. So we are getting very, very close to what could be a 60-60 split. And for the drivers who are going for the strategy, if they really go that far, that is a game changer. But we are seeing more and more drivers trickle down and trickle away. And the more we see that before we hit the halfway point exactly, the more skeptical I become personally of whether or not it's even possible to do. It's a big challenge and an undertaking for these drivers, certainly, and Tyler Hampton, he is caught up in a 3-wide shuffle, and he does not look to signal down a pit road. However, he is definitely much slower than everyone else there. That's a 34.3 he just ran, and he just got pushed all over the place. 54 laps in, though, he will not budge and remains on the track. Still not puttering. He's putting power down. However, he's going to have to let all the drivers on new tires go right around him like that, and he gives away a few spots on the track, gets a few drivers back on the lead lap, going back to Caleb Morrissey in 15th. Nonetheless, Hampton is still trying, but nobody's giving him an easy time as he taps the wall, and he's going to end up getting a little bit of contact on the right side. They're not making it easy for Hampton, I'll tell you that much, but now he's 5 laps away from his goal.
And I think I might have called it, David. If he's trying to go to lap 60, this might be a huge strategy call for the number 5. I think he might be able to stretch it out that far. Now, the one caveat in this is that he's hoping he doesn't get a caution in the middle of his pit cycle, because if he gets a caution right now, he's sitting pretty. If it happens while he's pitting, it's the worst possible thing that could happen to him. But if I think really that he could make this work. On lap 56 of the run so far, now coming into just 5 laps away from 60 in total. I don't know, David. I think he might be able to make this work, and this could be an absolutely huge strategy call when it comes down to the end of the race. If he can make it halfway and save just enough like he did now, I think it might be wraps.
Looks like maybe that is the story of this race. The first stint might mean everything here. We're seeing battles still behind. Alan Cumming and Lucas Logano going at each other. I'll say this much, doesn't look quite like they're tire saving or fuel saving. Looks like they're fighting each other for position as if it's any other battle. And I think that's the big deal right now. These drivers who have stayed out, confident enough in what they have, setting themselves up for immense success in the rest of this race. 57 laps in, and we are still seeing nobody in this top 8 pull the trigger. If you've gotten to this point, you should be good to go the rest of the way. And that's almost a guaranteed top 10. Look who's in 5th. Chad Winstead from the back of the field up in a 5th, even though the odds of him repeating victory is much slimmer now. He's in a very good spot to go for a top 10 because he's got the optimal pit strategy, and he now finds himself just behind Jimmy McKee and Alan Cumming. I'll tell you this much, from the back of the field on up, it's a great redemption run for Winstead if he can just hang on, but it looks like he will come in this time by, and so will Alan Cumming. 58 laps in, so close. And now it's in the hands of Hampton, Logano, and in addition, it looks like one more driver trying to hold on in Jimmy McKee. It's home stretch territory for this run, and now Hampton's looking to squeeze every drop out of that car.
Hampton really looking to stretch out as much as the run as he can, going all the way down to 145. As here he comes down to the pit road, he's going to come right at lap 59, going to 60. So just a lap short of going all the way around, but this is going to be perfect. Comes in, he's going to cross the line in about 100 feet, and there he goes right now, has gone onto lap 60, and splits the race directly down the middle.
I think Lucas Logano is safer. He just made it by the start-finish line under his own power in his 60th lap, and now the number 7 is in control and won't have to worry as much about stint number 2. Logano's coming in this time by. However, he set himself just as nice, if not even better, and he'll bring Jimmy McKee, and Brad Kress looks to still be on the track with them here, so it's a big shift, but Logano might have the advantage this time by. Down and in this time through goes that number 7. Just like that, Lucas Logano is through, and Scott Wheeler going to take that provisional race lead as they come across the line once again. 61 laps in out of 120, 60 laps to go. The halfway point here in Las Vegas, and now that pit road has run its course and drivers are back on the way fully, Scott Wheeler has been in this stint for about 19 laps. He's about halfway through this stint, that is. So we have to look out for what is next, because there's 60 more laps for the drivers we expect to come out with the win, and then there's about 20 for the drivers who are up in front right now. We're on a different strategy, and Wheeler leads by 3.5 seconds of those who don't look to be in it for the win.
Well, like I said, Tyler Hampton going to lose a lot with that, strategy call there, David. Now 27 seconds behind Scott Wheeler Jr., almost coming up to lap him. But in the long run, he's going to be able to go farther than almost anybody else on this run. So if it does stay green past lap 100, I think he's got it for wraps. He was able to clear the rest of the field by 20 laps. So, I don't know. I said all my stuff was on Winstead, but now you'll look at the gap, 20.28 seconds to the leader. Hampton, on these fresh tires, is absolutely cooking through the rest of this gap.
Hampton gets back in front of those like Lucas Logano and company. I think right now for the number 5 machine going down in and just taking those spots slowly, that's the big deal. He's got the advantage over everyone else on this set of Goodyear rubber. It looks like for now, Hampton, he's going to find himself 17 seconds back on Scott Wheeler. Lucas Logano is 23 seconds back, and he's leading the new wave, who might be the safest of them all. Keep your eyes peeled for Tyler Hampton, for Alan Cumming, for Lucas Logano, and Jimmy McKee. I think those are the four that should be the safest to go all the way. There's a possibility for Chad Winstead as well. There's a possibility for a few of these drivers further on back. I think, though, we're going to see a load of clutching and a load of coasting to go with it. That's going to be the way they have to go about it. Very safe, very patient. I think right now the aggression is going to be out the window only because how can you be aggressive if you don't have enough fuel to go all the way? It's still going to be tight. I think there's going to be drivers sputtering at the line tonight, and it's an early prediction, but with the way things are going, I would not doubt that we see drivers who have a lot of trouble making it there, just barely getting to our end. Just like that, moving on to the checkered flag with fumes out of their engines here, as it looks like Caleb Morrissey going to make it into fourth from Terry Brooks. J.R. Houston is up to third right now. Scott Wheeler leads. He's getting these laps led and getting those bonus points, but right now, no real chance for him to go for the race lead up in front.
Well, as is being said right now, it's Scott Wheeler Jr. over Dylan Poteet, J.R. Houston, and Caleb Morrissey. Morrissey able to get back up in the mix as well, back up to the top four. He had slid back to about the 8th position during those, just before that pit stop cycle, able to get up all the way back to 4th. Dylan Poteet jumps ahead of Houston in the standings right now, as Houston's close, just with about 3/10. But right now, no one is close to Scott Wheeler Jr., who has a 4-second lead over the next closest car, and that is Poteet. Right now, the two closest people who are battling it out, they're going to be 3 wide in the back of the pack, and that's Tyler Hampton passing the 51 with Kunman going around his outside. I believe Kunman might be a lap car according to timing and scoring, but right now Tyler Hampton cutting that gap down, David. We mentioned just a couple laps ago he was already at 20.8 seconds, 16.3. His last lap was a 31.9. He's absolutely roasting the rest of this competition on his way back up to the lead of the field.
Hampton is the quickest driver of all those ahead of him right now, save for Alan Kunman. Kunman going to find himself 11th on the lead lap, and he's there, and he is on the same style of strategy. Now, he went in 1 lap before Tyler Hampton, 2 laps before Lucas Logano did, so he might not be the safest of all of which relative to getting up to that halfway point. However, Kunman might be another threat for the race win if he can hang on to where he is right now. Going down to the inside there on Adam Bossie. Going to get through that number 27 nice and quickly. And it's now going to be 52 laps to go for the driver of the 88, who's also still in the mix for this race win. Anyone inside the top 10 now is effectively out of the battle for the race win, only because of the way strategy is going to play out. They will have one more pit stop no matter what, and they'll be coming in within the next 20-odd laps, the way they structured things out. 69 laps in out of 120, a nice lead for Scott Wheeler, but it won't be for too long if, of course, we don't get a caution. I think that's just the way it's going to go up in front. Side by side, Jimmy McKee and Lucas Logano going to be going at each other. 2 drivers on the new tire strategy, and they came in at the end of lap 60 into lap 61. Their second stint will be shorter than their first, a rare feat for any driver here in Las Vegas, and while they're set up to go for the race win, they got distance to cut through. They are 20 seconds back right now on Scott Wheeler, and about 4 seconds back on drivers who really run the show, including Hampton and Alan Kunman, who are up ahead. So for Logano and Jimmy McKee, while they should be ready to go all the way, they've got to make up that time if they really want to put themselves in the winning picture.
And I got to tell you, dear David, this top 5, this great group of guys, they've been all up here, and Terry Brooks, one of the best movers of this race so far, went from 11th now all the way up to 5th. One of the biggest ones, Scott Zellner, started 26th on the grid all the way up to the 6th position, 20 spots gained. You've got a pretty crazy top 6 here, David. They've all moved around and been almost everywhere on the racetrack. The one who's the most in place and out of place, J.R. Houston and Dylan Poteet, they started 3rd and 2nd on the grid respectively, 2nd and 3rd as the race runs right now. So a lot of these guys that were up there really aren't up there anymore, and the guys who were back there have now moved up, and that's just the glory of pit strategy, as you see changes happening all the time. And one thing to change now, Alan Kunman has passed Hampton by now about a second, and they're both closing in, almost in to the single digits of seconds. to the rest of the field, Hampton came out of that pit stop about 19th, is currently 12th on his charge back up to the lead.
And now, as everyone slowly but surely gets bunched up old strategy and you look at Alan Cumming, he's still ahead and actually gained about a second on Tyler Hampton. So maybe as Caleb Morrissey comes down and in, signaling another entry to pit road, we're seeing the window open up already here with 47 laps remaining, and he's going to split the stint, Caleb Morrissey does, as he hopes to get the advantage on his fellow competitors on the two-stop strategy. Quickly in, and the channel lock number 6. Back to Alan Cumming. He's gained relative to Tyler Hampton and to your leaders lap after lap. If you take a look at the bottom of your screen here, he's gone from a 12.76 second deficit to a 10.66 second deficit. So Cumming, he's continuously moving, making up these spots lap after lap, and it looks like now as he comes across the line, it will be the single digits in seconds that he moves into. 10.16 that time by. He's still gaining substantially, and for Scott Wheeler and company, not much they can do right now but wait and see as Cumming tries to lead the new breed up into the front of the field as Toby Wedgwood comes down to pit road. Alex, pit road is busy again, and it looks like we're already seeing that second cycle for drivers on the two-stopper.
Well, I was telling you, David, this is why I was so interested in Tyler Hampton's strategy. Able to split the race in half, is now 11.3, crossing the line now. Let's see if he goes to single digits. No, just so close, 10.9. He doesn't have to pit for theoretically the rest of the race. He doesn't have to come down pit road unless there's a caution. And so with the rest of these guys coming down to split the race in 3 segments, Hampton's only got 2, and he's in the last one right now. So with the rest of these guys coming down pit road, I don't know. Unless some of them just try and decide to stay out, I think Hampton's got it if it stays green.
Another battle brewing, and that's going to be Scott Zellner and Terry Brooks. You look right now at Zellner, who's going to find himself all the way down to the inside, running the paint. That moves Scott up into 4th, and Terry right back into 5th. Quick move there, while Alan Cummins now going to be with Casey Heschel, and it looks like for KC, right again, he's going to be in the Dairy Daddies number 49. He gets past once, and Alan Cummins makes up in a 9th quite quickly. It's an easy move there for the driver, the number 49 machine, to stay out of it, and it's even easier there for Alan Cumming to make the pass as such. He comes across the line with Casey Heschel now racing against Caleb Morrissey. Morrissey's one of the first drivers on new tire, and you can see him now making gains, and he's going to be so quick around these drivers on old rubber. Look at how fast he gets by Casey Heschel. That's down the straightaway. He's got the grip, he's got the pace, and now he's going to be whipping around the top side, getting out of everyone's way because he's simply that much faster.
Well, it's interesting to me, David, that the fact that this pit strategy has really been this far out. You know, I was expecting some of these guys to, I was expecting almost all of them to come down around the lap 40 mark, split this race up into 3, it being a 120-lap race instead of the 100-lap like Iora race that we just went through. And so right now, a lot of these guys are going to have to come down pit road. One of those, 2 of those actually, Scott Zellner and Dylan Poteet are going to come down. That's 2 more spots for Hampton. And Dylan Wedgwood also, that's 3 spots for Hampton as his charge gets now back up. He's going to go from 9th to 6th with all those drivers pitting. So right now, this strategy unfolding beautifully for the 5 car. And I got to tell you, if he wins, it's one of the greatest strategies I've seen, hands down.
Well, for Tyler Hampton, keep in mind, he still has his rival of Alan Cumming up ahead. Granted, he has been slightly losing that time. Alan Cumming has. Now it's only an advantage of 0.6 of a second. So maybe Cumming's starting to save up himself, and this could help out Tyler Hampton substantially as Scott Wheeler comes down and in. This will move Alan up into 2nd and bring the new breed up inside the podium. And it's now J.R. Houston, the only driver still holding fort. As Wheeler comes down and in, Cumming and Tyler Hampton, they're 2nd and 3rd respectively, holding their own with Casey Heschel in 4th. Casey's on a slightly different strategy. He will have to come down to pit road. He went in a 51-lap run previously, so he is not entirely safe. However, for Cumming and Hampton, 2nd and 3rd here, it looks like they will be good to go. And right now for Alan Cumming, he still remains ever so slightly ahead. We'll see how he does here with the remaining 39 laps as he comes across the line again. Still not guarantee he'll hang on because Hampton is coming up quick here, and pit road is oh so busy as so many drivers who are making the split strategy work come through. Scott Zellner with Dylan Poteet and Terry Brooks. Roberto Ramirez in 17th as inside goes Matthew Rodriguez and Andrew Baker. And even though these drivers are not fighting for the lead, they're as important as the rest of them because the points battle also lies with these drivers who are not going to be on the quote-unquote right cycle. Roberto Ramirez just got back on the way. He is in 17th. Terry Brooks is going to be in 16th, as we previously mentioned. Only two retirees tonight in Dylan Body and Corey Blevins. 38 laps to go, and another big wave in. 10 drivers remain on the track currently. They're on their stints, of course. It looks like most of which have been on their stints for only 20-some laps, whereas Jacob Hobb, J.R. Houston are holding fort. 40 laps for Houston and 42 laps for Hobb.
Well, it's crazy. This whole race, David, has been green, and we're on lap 84, just under 40 laps to go. And I'll tell you, we're cutting through people on the lead lap as all the way up to 11th is the last person on the lead lap, and that person is Caleb Morrissey over Brad Kress and Jacob Hobb. They're the closest ones to be getting lapped. Right now, Caleb Morrissey and Brad Kress are the closest ones involved, as I believe Austin Bloom and the rest of them are passing Tyler Hampton now. As long as Hampton doesn't get a caution, this is going to go swimmingly into his hands. But what my question is crazy, we have over 25 drivers, and half the field, over half the field, is a lap down. And that's what happens when the true talent of this league shines on a completely green race. And right now it's been showing a great here race from Vegas, a clean and green run for an absolute haymaker in strategy.
Now, of course, I think most of them are going to stay lapped down, of course, if the drivers were looking at choose to stay out. But J.R. Houston also going to be the one who brings it around every time with a 3-second advantage over Kunman and Hampton, respectively. So he might be the bringer of bad news for some of those who are off of the lead lap. You see right now, Houston, Kunman, Tyler Hampton, 1-2-3 combination with Casey Heschel fourth. Right now, Heschel going to be a bit further off of the pack. Jimmy McKee going to be right now in fifth as one man goes in. There goes J.R. Houston. 35 laps to go, and Houston opts to come in. And it looks like tonight, his opportunity for victory lane has just about diminished in one split second. Houston drives in fast, and he finds himself now seventh and continuously dropping. Alan Kunman is your new race leader, and now he's got the pressure from Tyler Hampton. Hampton looking low while Kunman goes high. This is the battle for the lead, Alex, here, and it will be with 33 laps to go.
Well, I was telling you, David, Hampton on that late race charge that he did last time, this is slowly stepping into that territory of the second stint. This is when he really started picking up the pace, started making moves, and now he only has one position to make. So he has an ability to try and get past Alan Kunman, and instead of using his tires and passing a whole boatload of cars like he did last time, he just has to worry about one car, and that's the 88 right in front of him. He's now only 0.2 of a second behind, and I wonder if he's going slow on purpose, knowing he can make it to the end of the race, unless he's just sitting right behind, as he knows he'll have the best chance to strike in a couple laps.
And for Tyler Hampton, he will continue to remain just behind. It's a quarter of a second in gap here. Chad Winstead's inside the top 5. From the back of the field, we mentioned it again, he's up into 5th, and now Jimmy McKee going to be 4th, running 4th and 5th respectively, about 7 seconds off of your leaders. Doesn't look like the opportunity is there to go fight for the win. However, certainly a very impressive run. Up to the middle groove, the Reese's number 60 machine trying to get things going, and he's got Jimmy McKee right ahead of him. If we look at the throttle inputs once again, how about we look at what the number 60 is doing right now and see what's going on. 179 miles an hour, make it 183 before breaking in. Winstead, middle groove, keeps himself sailing, and he's got himself now a little bit of a blip on the throttle before he puts the power down fully. Now as he pulls down the back straightaway with speed, it's up to 181 again before getting on the brakes and slightly tapping it back and forth. However, for now, it looks like Winstead not necessarily pushing. He's going to let Jimmy McKee do his thing and wait a lap or two as we look ahead to Tyler Hampton and Alan Kunman. Other battles are beginning to brew, mind you, not just the one for the lead. But we'll keep your eyes here as there's about 1/10 of a second of difference, and Hampton's in the wall ever so slightly, and contact again with the right side. And Hampton, maybe a little bit of peace getting caught there, but he's not done by any stretch. No! Alan Kunman's going to go sliding, and so does Hampton. But Kunman gets the worst of it, and your leaders make contact. No yellow flag, but Kunman's night, it might be all but over.
Well, that was an aggressive way to try and get around him, and Kunman, you're right, is going to get the worst of that. But I'm just insane. These guys had a clear advantage, and they just had it. How did they let this happen? Kunman, if he had just, battled them a little less aggressively, they could have finished 1-2. And now he's just going to let Hampton walk away with this one. 6-second gap to Jimmy McKee, and it doesn't look like it's closing by any close margin. Now lap 93 going into that last quarter of the race. Oh, hold on. Jimmy McKee gained about 5/10 in that lap. Could we see Jimmy McKee try and put a final charge to Hampton with these 30 laps left to go?
Well, with that being said, you got to wonder, does Tyler Hampton have damage? He did smack the front end quite big with that hit, of course, involving himself with the 88. And now we're watching on board with Tyler Hampton. You see a little bit of a crumple where we're looking at it, but that might be from within the iRacing camera system and not damage on the car. He's clutching and coasting just a bit. Everything seems to be fine with the vitals inside of the number 5. But what a way to end what could have been the battle of the race. It's back to being Hampton and Hampton alone up in front, but Chad Winstead is looking for second. The way things have turned out, Winstead might only lose one position on the day where he started dead last. When all is said and done, Winstead can have one race to discuss. Of course, green flag, he was as low as 23rd at the line immediately after. He's up to 3rd here, and now trying to make his way up to 2nd, and Jimmy McKee is slightly quicker. I don't think, Alex, that he's got enough, though, to make it back.
Well, David, you mentioned some of the damage on Tyler Hampton. There is damage on the left rear quarter panel there, right where the bumper connects, just about the edge of the spoiler. Luckily, he doesn't have any damage on the spoiler, so he won't be that much slower. But you're right, he does have damage. Our leader has a bit of damage, so that is unfortunate for Tyler Hampton. But it's crazy how my pick, Chad Winstead, set the pole, went back all the way to the longest line, and under green has come up all the way back to 3rd.
Slowly but surely, both Winstead and Jimmy McKee making up time, and that time through the game 0.2 of a second apiece. And now, it looks like Tyler Hampton might not be the favorite to win this one if he can't hold on. This is what it all comes down to here. And Tyler Hampton, he's going to be up in front as Tyler Snyder went down to pit road. 97 laps in, 4.6 seconds. That's the gap between Tyler Hampton and Jimmy McKee. And Hampton is continuously losing. It looks like, yes, there is definitely some damage there on the number 5, the way he's been driving it. And I think right now it's no denying Hampton might be in just a little bit of jeopardy as we come across the line with 23 laps to go. Live on FTN, every time we hit that 22 lap to go marker, we crank it up courtesy of our friends at trackcams22.com, the best provider in all of iRacing for high quality top of the line cameras for any broadcasting network. Check out iRacing's leading camera providers at trackcams22.com for more information, and we will return with 22 laps to go courtesy of our friends at trackcams22.com. Let's crank it up with 22 laps to go. 16 laps remain. Tyler Hampton out in front, and for the first time in a few laps, he is gaining just slightly on Jimmy McKee. That's the word now, as we have 105 laps in the books and what's been a caution-free race. Terry Brooks now going to be gaining on Scott Zellner, and right now your top 5 pretty well composed. Top 10, as a matter of fact, only with a few surprises. I think Caleb Morrissey, he's really had a nice race for himself. He went down to pit road twice, and yet for him, the two-stop strategy ain't worked half bad. He's up into 9th, and I think maybe an opportunity to gain one more spot or two if someone backs out of a strategy going long term. But Scott Wheeler is up to 3rd of the two-stop strategy. He just got by Chad Winstead, the number 97, looking for the podium. And it looks like, despite the fact he didn't go for the one-stop maneuver, he is there inside the top 3, and not all hope is lost.
No, not all hope is lost there, David, but I gotta tell you, one thing I'm super impressed with besides Tyler Hampton is Chad Winstead on his charge from sitting on the pole before this race even started, taking an EOL, and from the jump of the gun, from an entirely green race, not a single caution in sight, all the way back up to 4th. He is by far the largest mover of this race, and it has been truly impressive to see him walk his way up to the field almost like it's nothing on his way back up to the front after receiving that penalty now. But we're closing in on just a remaining 10 laps to go here. And I got to tell you, Jimmy McKee kind of slowly been chopping away 100th by 100th at a time, still in that 5-second range. So if he wants to catch Tyler Hampton, he's still got a long mountain and a tall mountain to climb.
I think right now the odds are slim that anyone can catch up to Tyler Hampton, even if Jimmy McKee continues to gain, which he has ever so slightly in the past few laps, but it's not much a pattern now, more than it is a coincidence lap after lap. 12 laps remaining, as a matter of fact, here, and we are truly in the home stretch. And what's been overall a testament to the skill of all these drivers. Only a few issues to look out for. Corey Blevins, who had himself a little bit of a slide in the infield grass. Overall, everyone else in the field holding themselves up nicely, not having much a problem, and as such, we've had a consistently clean race as we come to lap 110 here. One battle that's beginning to brew is Caleb Morrissey and Dylan Poteet. Caleb getting past there by the number 31 Menards machine, looking to save big money, get the pass quickly through, and Poteet now going to have a little bit more pressure as Caleb Morrissey goes down to the inside. He's going to try to take that spot right back away, and the number 6 lunges, gets it back quick. Quick move there for Caleb Morrissey. He'll slide up and look for the switchback maneuver. And now down to the bottom, there goes Dylan Poteet once again. Back in 4th they remain, and now it looks like Dylan has a chance to slide and get away from Caleb Morrissey, but Caleb certainly not making it easy here as we come down to the single digits.
No, not at all. Morrissey deep within that battle now, still side by side with Dylan Poteet. They've been going at it now, and this is the battle for the 10th spot, the last one in the top 10 as, yes, it is the last one for the top 10 currently between these two. Right now, Caleb Morrissey has the advantage now, as Dylan Poteet once had it, but now he has started to fall back. Next closest battle on the racetrack closely, you gotta look back in the field for this one, but it was Tyler J. Snyder, and, it was Tyler J. Snyder, and the mix between him and, Colton Gardner as well as Matthew Rodriguez. Then it's Alan Cunman in that mix as well. After his skirmish with our leader, he started to cut his way back up through the field. He is now 17th, so not much further to go. Unfortunately, for my pick, Chad Winstead, he is slowly starting to drop back as an effect of the strategy he had picked. But I gotta tell you, after going from last all the way back up to the top 3, coming home in the top 6 is by no means a horrible outing for the number 60 machine on his way back up to the top 5.
Well, for Chad Winstead, I'll tell you this much, a race to be proud of course, getting the victory last week, so doesn't have to worry about the W column, but I think he'd like to have put himself back in the top 3. Terry Brooks, and he had another strong run. Brooks was the man who came in second behind Chad Winstead, and he is there in the 23, looking right behind Chad Winstead. So with that being said, very familiar drivers from Kern County making their way up into Las Vegas. And they're doing pretty good. Now down to the inside, Terry Brooks looking to take that spot away from Chad Winstead. It's going to get side-by-side battle down the Nellish straightaway. And here you have it. There's Terry Brooks making the pass quick, and Chad Winstead, position number 6. Going to get passed again, but I don't think he's got anyone else who he can lose a spot to here. I think he's now just going to have to lie back, get himself settled in, and go for the final 6 laps of the night as Tyler Hampton holds his own.
Tyler Hampton has been absolutely almost indomitable on this strategy all race long, and he is really starting to come to a close here. Jimmy McKee is one of those that has started to close up to him. Kunman is going to be able to pass him now, and I feel like he's going to run him up. He's going to turn the leader, and the caution's going to come out with 4 laps to go.
Tyler Hampton destroyed, and the second act of the drama that came through 40 laps ago is fatal for the 5. The worst possible of outcomes, and Hampton is destroyed. We're going to overtime. And of all that could have happened tonight, I cannot believe it. We're taking a look back right now. Hampton, his race is practically done for. I don't think he's got a chance to get back out there. And Jimmy McKee not going to hold back with an opportunity with 4 laps to go. Was that even intentional? We're taking a look from overhead to really determine what that was. Now you can see McKee coming through. Tyler Hampton right there, and Hampton was up in front. We're going to take a look on board with Jimmy McKee, or rather Alan Kunman. And it's Kunman we're looking at. McKee now has the lead. We're mixing up some names in the heat of the moment. Here is Kunman. We're going to take a look on board with Alex. I cannot believe it.
I can't either, David. As if I'm sitting in Tyler Hampton's seat, I would have thought this is better off. I mean, I start gotta wrap this stuff up now. I mean, like, tell the guys go home, pack it up. We're going down victory lane. Not anymore. And I don't know if I don't know if I can agree with that move right there. I mean, I was mad during the IRA race at a couple people, but I just don't think I could do that, especially after a caution-free race. The only caution we have leads us to overtime. I mean, I don't know. Definitely as a respect thing, that's not going to gain him anything.
I mean, there's no reason for that to happen with lap machines at the end of this race. Wow.
If I'm going to say anything, I think that has to be looked into at least. Because I don't know. Usually, the golden rule of broadcasting is don't be mean and don't point out stuff. But that was a little egregious, if I'm honest.
And we'll see what the call is next week. I was not expecting that. That's for certain. And now
I wasn't either.
Wow.
I mean, that's not how I expected Hampton's race to end at all. I was expecting him to end up in victory lane, not end up down pit road.
With 3 laps to go here, we are going to find out who's going to win this race regardless. Tyler Snyder opts to stay out. It is a different look up in front. Jimmy McKee, he's made his way up now to the race lead. Then you look back and you got Caleb Morrissey, Scott Wheeler, and Scott Zellner, and Chad Winstead there too. I think all the bets are off at this right here. Alex, this is a completely different race from what we were looking at 5 laps ago, let alone what we saw before the caution immediately. And now Kunman comes in. It looks like it's going to be a few others who make it in as well. Tyler Snyder opts to stay out, and he's going to try to prey on a caution to bank on the victory, coming through quickly. We're going to get an overtime finish. It appears that is the circumstance we are headed toward. It is the only green-white checker. This will be the only caution of the day, no matter what. And it happens to be the final laps of the race.
Well, David, we're going to the point of no return here, and I got to say, we're in Las Vegas, ready for a gamble here, and I got to tell you, a lot of these guys going to throw the dice here under the last yellow of the race, Tyler J. Snyder, and he's over Jimmy McKee, Caleb Morrissey, and Scott Wheeler Jr. That's your top 4, with Scott Zellner looking to get a win on the season. He is currently 5th, and Chad Winstead is 6th. So we've got a lot of mix-up of names here in this top 6, and depending on how they race each other, we may not even see a winner in our top 6, depending on how the restart goes.
I think our biggest outsider of everyone here, how about Caleb Morrissey? It's a driver we haven't talked about most of this season. He's got wins in the Highline Racing League, his most recent coming at Talladega in season 15. However, Gen 4s weren't quite his style, and now an opportunity to maybe do something for the Four Horsemen. 3 of the top 5, that's what the Four Horsemen consist of right now for Shelly Babinchak, saying it just before we get to that point. And we thank you, Shelly, for pointing that out here. The Four Horsemen are in full control. Blacktop Racing has one of their own up in front as well, and Tyler Snyder is going for broke on his own here. This is going to be a green-white checker to remember, Alex. And I think this might be the most intense moment of the entire season up to this point.
Well, when you've had this whole race go completely green, everyone has been, feeling what it's like to be on a long run, prepping for a long run. We haven't had a single restart this race. We've only had the initial start to go off of, and they have no more cautions to bank off of to try and get this restart done. If trying to get it again if they make a mistake. This is it. We are at the point of no return. eNASCAR overtime for the first time here in Highline at Vegas as people get ready to roll the dice and gamble on hopefully a win. David, you may bet it all on black. Some of these guys are going to turn off. They're going to turn up with red. We're going to see who ends up gambling it out for the win here in Vegas.
Well, we don't have a 17, but if we had a red 17, I'd put all my money there. And Tyler 87, Tyler Snyder, that's the man to look out for in the South Point machine. It's the dark horse up in front, and he's going to try to pull through, hope for a caution quick. He's on 23-lap old tires, and he's at odds with the rest of the field. Green flags out once again, 2 laps to go, and there's a big stack up with Snyder getting out in front. It's Tyler up ahead of the field into turns 1 and 2, and the 87 having no choice but to get the jump. Jimmy McKee going to be right up top now trying to get that pass. The 48 goes high.
Free for the lead.
And Wheeler's going to go down low. There goes Scott Wheeler with Caleb Morrissey assisting, and it's going to be Wheeler to the bottom side and Tyler Snyder. He is sliding away. White flag this time by Wheeler, looking to break a winless streak going back several seasons. They're spinning.
They're going to spin.
Do they call a caution? No, they won't.
No, they keep it green.
1 lap to
go.
go.
They keep it green.
This time by Wheeler going to stay on the bottom with Jimmy McKee right up top. It's side by side with 2 drivers aching to return to victory lane. They both have it since season 15. They're door banging. 2 by 2 coming to the start finish line. It's Wheeler down low. Jimmy McKee right up top. Coming down the line. McKee with the
Who's
advantage.
it going to be?
Jimmy
McKee
wins from Las Vegas. What a finish. 41 thousandths of a second. My oh my, the 48 is back.
What a race. What a race. Jimmy McKee in a walk-off steals it for Scott Wheeler Jr.
3 laps led. The most important 3 laps of the entire race. McKee back on top for his first win since season 15, and it all comes down to 3 of the fastest laps we've seen in Sin City. What a win it is, and for Cunman, he's going to see his race-winning teammate. Oh, this is going to be a night to remember for weeks upon weeks. We've got a lot to unpack after this one. Jimmy McKee's a winner again. Can you believe it?
I can't believe what I just saw.
I don't think I can either. What a race that was at the very end, flipping a strategy night on its head. Jimmy McKee. How about that? Let's get your results rolled out here before we get a word from our drivers, and we'll get a minute to unpack this all. Jimmy McKee wins from Scott Wheeler. 4/100ths of a second. You don't see finishes like that too often. Two of the veterans of this league, and tonight they went toe-to-toe till the very end. It's going to be Chad Winstead with a podium after it all, and Scott Zellner with his best finish so far, a 4th place. Not a bad run for the one team. Dylan Poteet going to be in 5th, and J.R. Houston 6th with Casey Heschel 7th. Austin Bloom going to be 8th, and Lucas Lodato in 9th. Caleb Morrissey still holds on for a top 10. 11th place is Brad Kress and Dylan Wedgwood, 12th here, Alex. Let's go from the rest of the field on down.
Matthew Rodriguez is going to round out that 13th spot ahead of Roberto Ramirez, then falls back all the way to 15th after starting on essentially what was the pole for that final restart. Tyler J. Snyder, then it's Terry Brooks and Alan Kunman, Jacob Hom, Colton Gardner. Andrew Baker is going to round out the top 20. And for the rest of those who did not finish the race, it's going to be, Adam Bozzi finished the race, but for the rest of those who didn't, it's going to be Tyler Hampton, Toby Wedgwood, Connor Holden, Ty Smith, Corey Blevins, and Dylan J. Body in last in 27th.
Top to bottom, most of your field makes it home, 22 of which within 6 laps of your winner. And tonight we're going to go from the bottom up, so Chad Winstead's the first man we are going to speak to after his win in Kern County. I got to give a shout out to all those in the chat room tonight: Emma Ox, Shelly Babinchak, and Lee. Shout out for Lucas Lodato, who finishes tonight in 9th, and of course for the 4 horsemen who have a successful run with Scott Wheeler 2nd, Zellner 4th, Caleb Morrissey in 10th, and finally Jacob Hom, who comes home in 18th tonight. Chad Winstead's the first driver we're going to speak to, and for a night that became so dramatic so quickly, Winstead's night, which was tumultuous from the jump, now almost a sub-story in all honesty, but a great sub-story regardless here. Alex, you're standing by with a 3rd place finisher.
You know, Chad, I pick you week in and week out, and you got the pole, you got the EOL, but you came back to 3rd. What a remarkable drive here in Vegas on an almost completely green race, minus the green light checkered at the end, but we'll get to that. What was the whole race up to that point in your fight to claw back from last?
Yeah, it was a race, that's for sure. Long and grueling. My strategy was to just try to split it halfway and save as much fuel and tire as I could. I was really fast here. It felt like if I didn't mess up and get the EOL from last week, that I would have had a really good shot at winning, but it worked out. I'll take a top 3. Saved just enough fuel. I might have made it at the end, but it was going to be very close, but that caution definitely saved my race and got me the top 3.
Well, what a race it was, and going to talk about that caution. That restart, oh my God, that has to be one of the best restarts I've seen here in my short time with Highline, but I mean, there's so much happened. They went 3, nearly 4 wide for the lead. How did you come out of it with the top 3?
Well, I knew that Snyder was on older tires, and I saw him go low, so I wanted to go high, and it played out with the numbers. And I just basically ripped the fence. I don't know if you saw it when Snyder was getting loose. I just ripped the fence and hoped for the best that he wouldn't come up into me. So kudos to him for keeping it where he did. And Jimmy got a heck of a run off the top too. So I think the top was the way to go there, and it worked out for Jimmy and I. Congrats to Jimmy on the win.
Well, congratulations indeed. What a way to end it off here in Vegas. You know, you gambled, you had the EOL, but you came back all the way to 3rd. Well, congratulations on that. And is there anything else you'd like to say or anyone else you'd like to thank?
No, I mean, this is 2 weeks in a row going from last to a podium, so maybe I should just not qualify next week and see what happens. But yeah, I'm happy to be getting consistent results. This is like 4 podiums in a row now, so I feel like if I can stay this consistent through the rest of the season, I'll be sitting nice. So thanks to the body shop, Dylan, for whipping this paint up last minute with the Ford update, and thanks to my friends and family watching out there, and thanks to you guys. Appreciate it.
Well, clearly, I just got to keep picking you, and then you'll end up here in the top 3 every week, week in and week out, and you may win the championship by the end. But congratulations on 3rd place in one of the most wild restarts we've ever seen. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, buddy. Keep picking me. I'll see you next week.
The voice of Chad Winstead, he's the man who finished third after that exciting restart. And we'll get the man in second. Go ahead and talk to Scott Wheeler Jr. Scott, you come home second in one of the closest finishes in Highline and one of the most exciting, hands down. Walk me through, before we get to the green white checkered, walk me through what happened during that whole green flag portion of the race.
Yeah, it was just saving tires. I felt really good. In the first stint, I started to make up time. I lost a little bit trying to get past Bossy and Poteet, but after that, I could get into a rhythm and felt I had a really good feel for the track and everything for later on in the race. So after the first cycle, I got the lead, and then the second one, I knew those guys were trying to make the one stop work, and I was pretty sure I was only going to get third, and then the caution came out, and we kind of went from there.
Well, you kind of went from there, able to fight your way back up into the top 6 a majority of the race, and then you wind up in the top 3 after that crazy restart. You come home second, and just walk me through what your whole plan was going on after that caution had come out. You find yourself in the top 5 with a mix at a chance to win, and you end up second, side by side, door banging with the leader coming to the line.
Yeah, I knew with a late race caution, somebody was going to try, a different strategy. Caleb had taken 2. We had talked about it in the team chat, and then Snyder stayed out. So it was just a matter, restarting behind Caleb would have made more sense, I guess, tire-wise, but I just couldn't give up that position. So it was really just hoping I could send it in there and get the position off of Snyder and Jimmy, and then I just. Jimmy did a good job keeping me pinned down. I didn't want to wreck him or anything, so it ended up being a good finish. I'll take second, but a win definitely would have been a little bit nicer.
Well, a win always makes everything nicer, but you come back to second in one of the hardest green-white checkers I've seen in Highline. Y'all went nearly 4 wide for the lead. Well, with that being said, congratulations on second. And is there anything else you'd like to say or anyone else you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I just want to thank my teammates, Scott, Caleb, Austin. It's great racing with them every week. I think only one of us was really set in stone to make it here. I didn't have powers. Elner had stuff going on, and it all came together at the end. But everybody that watches, I watch the races back every Friday pretty much just to see what's going on. You guys in the booth, you do a great job. The product is amazing. Everything about it, from the Tuesday broadcast to the Thursday one. And Toby and Kendall putting the league on. I don't think Kendall was here today. I know Bossy has a lot to do with it as well. So just overall a good time every Thursday. And hopefully we can just keep the momentum rolling. The schedule looks pretty good for me.
Well, hopefully that momentum going to carry with you through the rest of this season. Congratulations on coming home in second and one of the wildest finishes we've seen in Highline history. And thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
The voice of second place finisher, Scott Wheeler Jr. And I got to tell you, David, coming home second kind of hurts, especially when it's that much closer to the leader. But you're about to speak with him right now and hear his thoughts after coming home in the first position.
Well, for Jimmy McKee, tonight was one of ups and downs, starting in 19th, so it was a hard charge to make up 18 positions on the day overall. By no means a small feat. And for this number 48 crew, that caution flipping the race on its head and ending up in victory lane by a margin of 41 thousandths of a second. Jimmy McKee getting it done tonight. How are you feeling?
Feels good to win again. It's been a long time.
And of course, you mentioned it, the drought from season 15 onward, waiting for an opportunity to get it done with these Xfinity cars. You've had speed, and tonight, pulling it through in the most unexpected of circumstances. So how was it working with a strategy to eventually make it with the perfect position to this point?
At first I was just hoping it would just stay green. I was surprised that I was able to save enough fuel to get past halfway, and then I was able to make it. I was about a lap and a half to the good to make it to the end, and I knew the 5 pitted a lap or so before me, so I thought he was going to run out in that last lap regardless of what happened at the end. But I mean, I guess I'm okay with that caution coming out because it worked out for us. But just super happy to finally get that monkey off my back and finally grab another win.
Finally pulling through for that victory you've been looking for here in the overtime finish, which tonight we saw it go all the way for 2 laps. That's something we haven't seen all too often with these overtimes in this league before. The wreckage didn't start until we crossed for the white flag, so you had 2 full laps to go at it with Scott Wheeler, and we've seen you two battle time and time again before, always giving these good finishes. Been a while though, so what was it like knowing it was all or nothing in those final 3 miles?
It was a little uneasy, just because when we were coming to the white flag, I heard someone say they were wrecking, but luckily we had crossed it in enough time to where we could finish the whole race. And if that had happened, I don't know how many feet before, Scott would have been walking away with a victory. But happy the way it turned out. But yeah, just super excited. That was exciting.
Just like that, back in victory lane, and a lot of momentum for this entire number 48 crew. Tell you this much, up next on the schedule, got a familiar track in Chicagoland, another intermediate, and with this much speed here in Sin City, who's to say you can't convert her for another good run next week?
I hope so. Chicagoland's a good track. It's somewhat similar to this one. Tire wear's probably going to be roughly the same, so we'll see if, depending on the lap count, if we can do the same type of strategy and, make it a fuel mileage race, or if we can just race it all the way through. But I love Chicago, so I'm looking forward to it.
And we hope to come back to the racing action, see some more excitement as we did this week up next in Chicago. But tonight, Jimmy McKee, your victory, the focus with a thrilling finish, and the checkered flag is yours. If you have anyone else to shout out tonight, make sure you let us know. This floor is yours.
I just appreciate y'all again for the broadcast. Dylan Body for making this awesome paint scheme for the school that I coach at. So shout out to the Mattoon Green Wave, and looking forward to run this scheme a little bit more.
And once again, running from Mattoon High School tonight, the number 48 machine, it's Coach McKee with the checkered flag. We thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Jimmy McKee on the move. We've spoken to your top 3 tonight, Alex. And how about that? McKee in first, Scott Wheeler in second, and Chad Winstead in third. Now we've gotten a word from all of our top 3. I think it's fitting to wrap up on this note, Alex. You got any final thoughts first before we head on to Chicagoland?
Well, final thoughts. I mean, what an incredible race we witnessed, honestly. Everyone kind of gambled there at the end. Some people turned up heads up, and others want to turn their heads down. But I got to tell you, Vegas was one of those tracks that did not expect this long of a green flag run, and I got to see it come back to the schedule. But I am more excited with Chicagoland coming up in the next weeks. That's one of my all-time favorite combos on iRacing, especially with the Xfinity car. So I just can't wait. I'm hoping for another banger next week like we saw tonight.
And I can't wait to see more of the excitement here on Thursday nights, a thriller in Sin City. And once again, you're watching exclusive coverage of the Highline Racing League Westlake Royal Building Products Premier Series. Tonight's coverage, of course, going to be from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and this is the Sutter Health 180 Las Vegas Motor Speedway in the virtual realm, provided by iRacing Motorsport Simulations. We hope you enjoyed tonight's coverage. I'm David Croyt alongside Alexander Balderas, your host for tonight's event. And if you enjoyed tonight's racing, make sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. Your support is always immensely appreciated. Thank y'all for stopping by on this lovely Thursday night. We'll be next live on Saturday with the Velocity Online Racing League as their Indy series keeps on going, and we hope to have you all back for that event as well. Once more, we hope you have a fantastic night.